What am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I wearing a stupid hat, a stupid wig, and why is this live audience laughter fake? The SNES Geek is not supposed to be a sitcom. It should be exactly as I want it to be. And that applies to you! And copying is the most sincere form of flattery. While many are annoyed when something is copied, doesn't mean something being copied is the waste of time. There are imitations of things across the entire world, the most prominent being in video games, books, music, etc. The Wii was really revolutionary for its time, bringing motion controls into the mainstream and showing people that swinging a controller really had staying power. Like I said, not everything copied is the waste of time. There's some genuine pieces of art, some absolutely stunning, and then there are those who just exist. Bringing you the PlayStation Move for the PlayStation 3. This game guy was revealed in 2009 and released for the fall season a year later. While one lives in infamy, the other lives on. Yeah, Microsoft pushes out the hardcore player base by shoving Kinect stuff down their throats. While Sony just released the Move, just let it exist. It was repurposed for the PlayStation VR in 2016, but for now, I will only focus on the PS3 original and the launch title for this video, Sports Champions. What's the most important aspect of any game? Being able to fucking play it. Normally games are played with the classic control like this one, or this one, or this one. But none of that luxurious stuff. This one is played with this. Don't worry, it's not a dildo. I don't think so. So let's go! After I change the battery, that is. So while that thing is charging, I think it's a good idea to speak about the history of motion controls and how Sony really are the pioneers. Back in 1999, an idea was born by Richard Marx after being showcased to PlayStation 2. The idea was simple, and with the power of PlayStation 2, it was possible to do just that, in reality. The idea was to use natural user interference and mixed reality appliances, such as webcams. The iToy was born, and the rest is history. The next idea with motion sensing is in the PlayStation 3 controllers known as 6-axis, revealed alongside that very console back at E3 in 2005. Of course, motion sensing in these controls was far more limited than iToy, as it would allow it to be only used in a certain area. If only the developers programmed it themselves. The controller was criticized for getting rid of the vibration function, which then made Sony remove the 6-axis controller. But nowadays it lives on later in the PlayStation controllers. Thus, PlayStation Move became its own controller, and thankfully it didn't fade away as they use as the primary controllers in PlayStation VR. Speaking of which, yeah, it's ready. This one has a lot to live up to. You don't want to make a Wii Sports clone. That would just be cheap and the easiest thing to do. It is a good thing that's not really the case, as a lot of the sports are not based around anything of Wii Sports. They are more based around casual games, something to do in your spare time that you can pick up and play. They went for the Mario Party 2 style of having all of the games being bubbles. Just point at one of them and push the front button. Now comes something necessary to progress the game. It is time for calibration. This had to be done every time you pick a sport, and unless the conditions are fulfilled, you won't be able to progress. The room had to be well lit, and the controller had to be on screen at all times. I did it decently easy, but just for sitting down and doing it. You can even see my room through this camera. What is the most ideal way to conquer everything? By understanding how everything works. Thankfully, they got you covered with a tutorial to explain everything you do before you start. It is essentially like the few action events with a few quirks, such as poles to pass through, or smashing somebody with a sword. The great thing about this is how the game doesn't hold your hand. It's always making you perform the action. There is no freeze time frames, there are no excuses. Of course, the computer isn't cheap. It's not fighting when you're trying to get used to the controls, but you're at least active within it. It is set up in late afternoon in plenty of events, and probably during mid-autumn as well. Look at the colors, the leaves, the sun. I got to be honest, autumn is my favorite season. There's something special about looking at the orange leaves and the sun that is warming you up, while at the same time just feel the coldness in the air. There is something magical about it. Something that's really effective is the soundtrack. Something I really enjoy. It's also peaceful and mellow. It reminds me of the Toy Story 3 PS2 soundtrack. Take a listen. Get it? If I didn't convince you, I haven't done my job. This is what you will hear after work with your buddies, this casual orchestral music with an overall cozy feel. But do the characters complement the game? I hope you heard what I said. I said characters, not playable characters. It cuts no bullshit, there are no side characters, it's just all of them, just featured in different sports if you didn't pick them. Their designs are really decent, they really stand on in their own right and have great personalities and urgency. The animation really works and so does the few voice samples it's got. I really like that since this was during a time when true to life realistic graphics was on its way in. Although that wasn't the case early on in this generation because of difficulties working with the hardware. At the time Sony had built a very special piece of hardware, one which was impressive but far too ahead of its time. They took for granted that players would buy no matter what since PlayStation and PlayStation 2 had made such big waves. But when system matched up, things had to change. It was too fucking expensive, $499 for the 20GB model and $500 for the 60GB model. While it had some impressive features, like Blu-ray playback, it wasn't enough to convince people to buy it until later. Thankfully, companies began to understand how the hardware later on works, and after some failures with the Xbox 360 and great kits for the PlayStation 3, Sony won this generation of gaming. So how do these events stand out to each other? Is one better than the rest? Sadly, yes. In the battles, there are always winners and losers. So it's time for the SNES Geek Top 6 ranking of all sports in Sports Champions. Volleyball, I get it, it's a sport that's justifying a place on this list, but I just don't really like it. It has one motion, with the player moving automatically towards the ball. I know this is necessary in the most sports games with volleyball, and one thing they have in common is that they are often automated in a way that doesn't feel engaging. This one sounds different, it's no flair, no edge, nothing that makes it special in any way. You simply raise your controller in the air to get the ball up in the air, then you do the same to slam the ball down. It's a by-the-books version of volleyball that do nothing special, thus placing this at a distant last place on this list. At second to last place, ping pong. It's basic ping pong, like what became a real life thing after a classic film came out. This is a vast improvement from last place. While I still think it's a bit too generic, the graphics really shine, and that really saves this one from last place. You need to pay attention to ensure that you actually have a chance to win. You know all these different techniques, you have to shoot the ball to surprise the opponent. Well, just throw them in the trash. In many game reviews, you simply just smash buttons or swing controllers to actually win. That's the same for this one. What more can I say? Well, the hall itself looks pretty good. Look at the sound rays and the colors, it really pops. I bet it looks wonderful at dusk. Just look at these jerseys on the wall. Mwah, just beautiful. At fourth place is Gladiator Duel. Now this one gets talked about within context of this game, and in theory this should be number one. But in my book, it isn't. And there is a reason why that is. The colors don't really stand out in any meaningful way. It's just beige and sand around it. But to some it simply doesn't matter. You are in a gladiator arena with a sword against somebody else. The rules are simple. Just kill the other player with his different sword techniques. This one has a lot to do more with the controls. It's necessary for you to actually understand how to use them if you want to actually win. You have a shield, and if you have a second controller, it can be used for defense, but you can steal one with only one. The sound effects are fitting, hitting hard is very satisfactory, and this is the fan favorite for a reason, just not my favorite. Third place is Bull, a very popular after work sport. Played at bars. Does it translate well to the TV screen? Yes, it does. The rules are simple. Just throw the small ball on the sandy field, then hit the small ball with these big balls. Simple as that. I just love how this sport looks. It is set by the ocean in America, and it really shows how pretty this game can really look. The air is musty, and you can feel the saltness of the ocean in your face. The orange fits really well, and so does the park bench over there. The opponents doesn't fit in this scenario at all. Why are there bodybuilders doing in a casual park? Did they go to after work when it wasn't? Well, I hope they all get fired. Okay, first place, it's archery! Out of all the actual sports, this one has the most fun and relaxing tone. It also keeps you on your toes. Just load the arrow with the B button pushed down, and then prepare the arrow with your hand behind your back and watch it go. The core game involves you getting points by aiming at the target. Yeah, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory, and you don't really have to know more than this. And that is the way I describe Sports Champions for the move. It's easy to pick up and play, and while not every sport is a winner, that doesn't mean anything bad. It's good, some of the sports aren't as fun as the rest. Variety is a spice of life. It's quality over quantity. I bet these sports have a place in a lot of people, and if you enjoy all of them, that's great. Thank you.